It's been a busy few days in the UFO world, and we bring in the fedora-wearing Jon Hudson to come on in, as his chin hair is on par with high-quality UFO news. Jon, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, and I'm going to be honest with you. Every day we get a little bit closer to mosquito season, and it's a little bit bothersome for me. It goes wet spring, mosquito season, fire season, back to mosquito season, winter.
But I have good news for you. Soon the insects are going away. It's already happened where I live. So basically, you know how you used to drive on the freeway and get all that bug goo all over your car? It doesn't happen anymore. Not enough bugs for it to happen. Kind of nice.
That's bad for the environment,
It actually resulted in lower washing costs for transit vehicles.
Well, that's
measurably lower washing costs in transit vehicles. That's
all right. Lots of news happening around, from NASA to more UFO hearings to scientists should be involved in hearings. It's now irresponsible to not talk about UFOs, and so much going on right now. Where do you want to start?
That's the problem. Right now there really is this incredible buffet to choose from. But what I started getting very frustrated by it, and I decided I just want to pick out a couple things that just hit me. Just hit me emotionally in some way. And so and I also it's hard, because you could spend hours talking about the hearing. You could spend a bunch of time talking about the video that came out on Friday. There's all these other things that are going on. There's the nearly guaranteed coming of additional hearings because the Senate won't let the House do anything well and then not try to duplicate it, and neither will the House. So we know that's going to happen. And so, things are a little chaotic right now. But the thing was that hearing had some very challenging aspects of it. And one of them I wanted to talk about is, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this, but there used to be this wonderful document online that I should look up, see if it's still there, called Weasel Words. And this document was, I believe it was written by Wikipedia, or maybe it was Google. I don't remember. It was one of those places. And it was an example of all the words that people use in trying to persuade people of things that you should go big red light. Don't listen to this person, sort of a thing, right? Things like, for example, being shown a graph with no axis or identification at all, no values of any sort, just bars, right? Like, I love those. Some guy did it the other day on YouTube. I was dying laughing. But one thing that happened is in the back and forth, there was a specific word that started appearing, and the thing is that the different circles of government have working vocabularies that they work with inside and outside, right? And those vocabularies also evolve, like everything else evolves, right? And so new words get introduced into their vocabulary that will then get tried out in public. And if they work, they'll be used again. And if they don't work, they'll be brought back and maintained internally. And it's not a terribly conscious thing. It's a social beast thing, right? But the thing is that when someone starts adding a qualifier to a descriptor, when they start adding an additional conditional, right? And in this case, the conditional was contractual, right? And the idea was that he was being asked about, whether we had any programs, whether we had any materials. Basically, every question that came down to, did the U.S. have anything in its possession? Many of his answers would come back with, I know of no contractual organization that did that kind of work, right? And he started throwing this. That is not a common word, at least in the public decorum. And so what that means is that that's an engineered word. It means something very particular. It has a specific goal and a specific purpose, and it has a definition that he has for it that may not be the same definition that we have for it. And so it introduces a lot of obscurity. It's just not pleasant, and it's certainly interesting to talk about, but I don't like it because it implies deceitfulness, I guess, or at least evasiveness.
Okay.
Because, let me give you an example, right? DARPA, right? DARPA only has about 124 actual employees, okay? basically the 100 like director, program manager, whatever you want to call them, they basically own the project, and everything in the project is completely contracted or some sort of an outside contract. There are no permanent employees except for those 124, and 100 of them rotate fixed every 6 years. So there's really like 24 people that kind of stick on. And so in their case, if you start asking them questions, well, what considers contractual work? Is work that was done through this one DARPA program where everyone on there was contractors? Is that considered contractual work, even though there wasn't an actual contract written for that specific work? Or does it have to be a specific contract that actually covers the scope of the work that was actually executed by the party? I mean, you can start getting into some horrible nuances here, and it's just not pleasant.
Okay, so what does this have to do with UFOs?
Well, this was essentially how one of the ways oh man, now I've forgotten his name. This is one of the ways that our lovely government representative was basically getting out of telling the truth during the UFO hearings. So what this is a blatant example of a very, very active, very, very simple obfuscation technique that they were clearly using in the hearing on TV.
So you don't think it has anything to do with the fact that these gentlemen who were up there speaking, Bray and what was the other gentleman's name? Oh, it's on the top of my head. Moultrie. You don't think that they were, it had anything to do with the fact that they were just appointed their position about a week and a half beforehand?
Well, even still, you don't bring in words without, like, every word has value, cost, and place, and there's no out of place word. Every word has purpose. Every word has a goal. And so for him to add in that word as a descriptor to something that we've never heard it phrased that way before, that's completely new, right? It's completely new. And so why is it new? What is he calling out differently? How is he using it to parse the language so that he can not answer the question?
But who's he?
And unfortunately, I got so caught off guard. I can't remember the poor guy's name, but it was one of those two representatives that you mentioned that was testifying in the hearing.
Okay, so that's an interesting take, because from what I had heard was that they were just appointed to the position. They don't even have a full leader in that yet, and that they were kind of caught off guard with the questions because they hadn't been fully indoctrinated into a lot of the stories like Malmstrom or the Wilson documents or anything along those lines.
Well, yeah, and they would be selected and briefed for the goal of keeping them somewhat ignorant, because you don't want to expose anyone to testimony that's going to create any kind of litigation issues, right? So to a degree, they want people who are. I mean, we've talked about this before in the show on Friday and other places. Figureheads. One of their purposes is they are the safe one to testify. That's like in their job description. You're one of the safe people that can testify. And the way they keep you safe to testify is that need to know is really strict. It's only what you absolutely need to know. Because
well, what are you hearing about any future type talks here within the next couple of weeks?
Well, to me, it's not a. I don't even know why anyone's debating it. I find me a time in history where the House or the Senate has done anything successfully that the other side hasn't replicated within weeks. I don't think it's ever happened, ever, in the history of the country, right? I mean, this would be the first. I mean, I guess it could happen. But the thing is that, I mean, that if you want to look at it from one point of view, the numbers for that hearing were fantastic. And Senate's going to want to, get their paw in the game. So now a good thing to debate is whether the Senate hearings will have a public and a private element, or could it just be a private element? And that I suppose is a possibility. I would hope not. If nothing else, their egos would probably keep that from happening, because the House one went really well from everyone else's point of view.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if they end up, because all the rumors are saying that we could have new hearings within the next couple of weeks on this subject.
But here's the reason why there has to be hearings in the Senate, is because basically if you don't get hearings in the Senate, then what that means is nothing that's being talked about in the House has any intention of ever being legislated. Because anything that has to be written into legislature has to go through the Senate as well. And they would have to have knowledge about it, and they would have to be briefed on it, and they would have to be part of the process. Now, you could do all the work in the House and then toss it over to the Senate, and that happens all the time. But the point is, the Senate's going to have to work on it, so they're going to have to get involved one way or the other. So it kind of has to happen no matter what. Whether we hear about it or not may be the bigger question.
Interesting. Well, when you think of the idea that we could have these hearings within a couple of weeks, do you expect to see any names that we may recognize as part of people being called up in front of Congress?
So prior to 8 hours ago, I would have said absolutely not, and I would have been kind of horrified if anyone was claiming to know that sort of thing, because I'd be surprised if that kind of information came out. And then Ross Coulthart was no, I feel bad. It was either when he was on with Jimmy today, or it was when he was on with Nori on Thursday. He basically said point blank that what he's hearing is that there is a second hearing in the works, and that the people who would testify at that hearing are of a completely different class than the first hearing. They are people who want to testify, and there are people who are coming prepared to testify.
God, we better hope that's public.
And that's what Ross Coulthart said.
I hope it's public. Who would you choose? Who are your top 5 that you would choose?
Oh boy. You know, oh boy, I'm going to just turn like a whole community against me at once just by doing this. I don't know.
Lou Elizondo? Chris Mellon?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Chris would work. Elizondo would work. Elizondo would definitely work. It would work. Here's my problem. I don't really want a bunch of outsiders testifying, because they're not going to be listened to, right? I mean, maybe one, right? Maybe 1 or 2 for real impact, right? Robert Salas or something, you know?
Robert Salas, Travis Taylor?
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is that the optics of this hearing is like nothing I've ever seen, and I have a really hard time. And the thing is that what I'm talking about is that, like, we used to laugh all the time about the idea of people from corporate America going into government service, or people going from government service into corporate America, because we worked in both worlds and we saw how vastly different they were and how easy it was to screw up royally if you didn't know all the rules of each, right? And so, oh man, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even come up with 5.
Well, my top 5 would be Robert Salas. It would be Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Travis Taylor, and Robert Bigelow. I want to see Bigelow on the stand.
Hey, you know what? Okay, Dave, nice. That's a good list.
Yeah, we got 15.
That's a good list. That's a good list. No, I like that list. I hadn't thought about Bigelow. That would be interesting.
I'll explain my list when we get back, so our radio audience understands who I am chatting about here when we get back from the break. The Unbiased UFO Report with the fedora wearing Jon Hudson continues on Spaced Out Radio. And when we return, what debate would you put in front of Congress? Talking UFOs. much more. Certainly news as well. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. See, Jules, I thought about Gary Nolan, but the problem with Gary Nolan is right now his research would be considered way too woo for where we're going. Eric Davis, I could see putting him on there. Oak Shannon. Hal Putoff. Admiral Wilson. Guys, instead of typing in one at a time, give me each your top 5. Your top 5. If you're in the chat room, give me your top 5. Asteroid Deuce Bigelow, Child Prodigy. Damn rights. If I ever met Robert Bigelow, I would ask him if I could touch his hair. Because I think it's a helmet.
That would be your question.
Him and Leslie Keane, they have helmets.
So my question for Bigelow has always been very simple. You clearly found the answer you were originally looking for. So why are you continuing? Bugs me. No one's ever asked him that.
Give me your 5, people. Give me your 5. James Weston, how you doing, buddy? The summer of punk has begun. King of Huecamundo. Wow, Jules, you would put John Alexander up there? Oh. Oh. You are a rebel.
Oh, boy, wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be funny? And see, that the other problem is you don't really know how everyone would behave. You know, people behave differently when they get on the stand.
I think you would hear John Alexander plead the 5th as many times as he could. The Doug Shelby is exiting the building, people. The Doug Shelby is exiting the building. Who is CRM? Oh, my knees are killing me tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, God.
Why is that?
I was playing a little bit of baseball with my son outside. And the little jerk made me bend more than twice.
You know, about, I don't know, 10 years ago, I think it was. I was like in my, like mid-30s. And I started like realizing I wasn't like as mobile as I thought I was. And so I started doing this this T25 like cardio like workout thing. And oh, dude, you do the craziest things. You've one-handed push-ups, like I mean, just like the craziest things you couldn't even imagine you end up doing. But it takes a while, but it's amazing how I'm probably more flexible now than I've ever been in my whole life.
All right, we got about 35 seconds. Thank you to Doug Shelby, Horror Realm, Philip, Thomas, Dry Toast, and Phil Minervino, the birthday boy, for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Thank you to all the veterans who are hanging on out with us. We really do appreciate it. And we're going to continue here in about 15 seconds. We're rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate tuning you on in. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the Unbiased UFO Report tonight with our main man, the fedora-wearing Jon Hudson. John, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Very welcome. All right, dude, let's get into it. Top 5 that you would like to put in front of Congress. Now, I gave you mine. I said Luis Elizondo. I said Chris Mellon, Robert Bigelow, Robert Salas, and Troy Taylor, the head scientist at Skinwalker Ranch. Who's John choosing?
So the hard thing for me is that for me to answer this question well, you have to actually have some clue as to what everyone actually knows. And so then the question becomes, are you weighing this based on what the person knows or what the person might present like in the congressional setting? And so for me, what I would really want is I would want something like Kit Green's knowledge in like Brennan, the former CIA director's body, right? Like I would rather have, if recently former heads of intelligence agencies and those, I would rather have those people, but actually saying something,
Since you're dodging the question, Jonathan Davies, Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, Lou Elizondo, James Lukatsky, and Troy Taylor. Let's see who else our listeners have here. Let's just scroll on up. Joe Monk, Lou Elizondo, Science Bob. For some reason, he's got me on there. I'm not going to do squat down there. Robert Salas and Donald Kehoe.
But look, I mean, keep in mind, like, I mean, take like where'd that last list go? Because I mean, I like this list for what they know. I like the list for what I believe they know. But some of these people, I'm a big fan of Eric Davis. I actually really am. I really like the guy. I was actually following him for years as a physicist before I even got into UFOs. So I'm a big fan of his. But I don't know if I would want him testifying. I don't know if I would want Puthoff. Oh man, okay. You know what it really comes down to? I want to see everyone's performance on the stand first.
Well, you can't have that. John, once in a while, you got to use your imagination. Jules here, Hal Puthoff, Luis Elizondo, Stanford scientist Gary Nolan, scientist Eric Davis, and John Alexander, one of the aviary. That's
Actually,
interesting.
I take it back. You know what I would love to do? Not do any of these people. Grab 5 kids from aerial school.
That would be beautiful. Let's grab them to be on this show. We're working on that.
Get 5 kids from that.
Stephen
Hell,
in the UK.
get 5 kids from anywhere. Any sighting.
Stephen in the UK. Lou Elizondo, Travis Taylor, Hal Putoff, Robert Bigelow, and Oak Shannon. Mennonite Abe wants to see Lou Elizondo, Eric Davis, Hal Putoff, Admiral Wilson, and Dave Scott. Dave has no fire in this game.
Yeah.
No fire in this game.
And the thing is that everyone's doing this based on what they believe, each one's going to do. And like, I mean, I may just be completely wrong on, whether so-and-so, like Mellon, I know Mellon can testify well, right? I know actually Elizondo can testify well. I mean, even someone like, oh man, I don't know.
Philip Blair, Jacques Vallée, Robert Bigelow, Leslie Keane, Ralph Blumenthal, and Michio Kaku.
I could go for Vallée.
You are over. I can feel your mind working right through here, man.
Because essentially what I'm really doing for my own purposes is I'm thinking of all the arguments I know that can tear down these people, which groups they're from, how accurate they are, and how successful they are. And so I'm more looking at that from the point of view of which one of these people are actually going to stand up to the type of analysis that's going to be done on them after it. And what sort of a backlash is that going to create for us? So, yeah, I'm overthinking it.
Logan Black, I want to see Captain Kirk, Spock, Mulder, and Scully, plus the Observer from Fringe. That's brilliant.
Well, what were those 4 guys that the X-Files, but those 4 geeks that would help them out sometimes? They were called like the Unknown something or other. It was very funny, but.
Yeah, they're probably UFO Twitter.
Exactly. Well, yeah, in many cases. The lone gunman, that's what it was.
You're going to dodge this question, aren't you?
No, actually, I don't have any problem to giving my answer. I have no issue with it at all if I really had it. I'm like, I mean, I realized that I would feel comfortable with Gary Nolan. I'd feel comfortable with Jacques Vallée. I would feel comfortable with Christopher Mellon. Even Elizondo. I don't really know if Elizondo is a good idea because of the way the public reacts to him.
Well, the only public that's poo-pooing him is people on UFO Twitter. And that's a small percentage, considering he is considered a Christ among people there.
Yes, but the thing is that once people become a public interest person, then it doesn't take long to get out to get to the mud, right? And the thing is that I don't have any sort of like challenges with essentially like being wrong or calling out a bad person. To me, that it's a short list. I can think of Vallée, I can think of Nolan. Come
on, you're throwing in Corey Good and David Wilcock, aren't you?
Boy, can you imagine what would happen?
Asteroid, Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Captain Kangaroo, Santa Claus, and the Easter Bunny.
Might as well get Oliver North.
Wow, dropping an Ollie North here on the show. That's awesome.
He had his own talk show for a while too. I mean, yeah, and basically you want people that just have been so damn clean, just so damn clean. I mean, you take Elizondo for example, right? Someday, the work Elizondo did at Guantanamo Bay is going to become more and more public. Now, in my personal opinion, for what I know of it, I don't have an issue. I'm not going to be common in that, in my belief. And so there will be a time where people will essentially take that information and use it to attack him for everything else he does. And so there's a good example of something that I worry about, right?
All right. Well, you could also go with Admiral Wilson.
I've never even seen him talk.
Well, I'm sure he talks,
but I don't think he presents well. But I mean, keep in mind, Dave, like, professional public speaker, right? I mean, that's what I've been doing for a living for a long time. So, like, I'm probably just extremely critical of people's delivery on stage.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have either Davis or Wilson testifying after their memo went in as record.
If you wanted to use the memo at all, yes, you're right.
I think Admiral Wilson would only come in and testify if he was granted immunity.
Wait. Can you imagine sitting in the room, Davis?
Okay, that doesn't go over well for our radio audience.
I'm sorry. Davis, please, you speak. I can't right now.
Eric Davis sat next to Admiral Wilson.
But to me, it's the idea of us calling them to testify and them sitting next to each other in Congress and having to wait until they get questioned, and just watching the body language between the two of them became just the funniest scene in my head. So I apologize.
Avi Loeb would be a good one. Thank you, Philip Blair.
Yeah, he would. Well, yeah. Yeah.
You could even have members of the board of directors for the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. Tom Whitmore from MUFON. Bring out Tom Whitmore from MUFON.
Actually, Tom would do well, I think. I think Tom would do well.
Tom would do very well.
I really do. I think Tom would do well.
Nicole wants Kit Green and Ron Pandolfi. Radio, buddy.
I'm sorry, man. All I can say to people is do your own research on Ron Pandolfi, and eventually you'll find this as funny as I do. It's all I can say. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of personalities in this world, and you know, when someone does, it's challenging. And that's the thing, is everyone's got stories. Everyone's got challenges. That's why I think, like, when we saw a video of Brennan basically making a statement about the fact that there were things that were unknown, that to me was bigger than almost anything else, because it was someone who wasn't necessarily an experiencer. I guess it could be, but it's because the thing is, we need people up there that people can relate to, and that people, they can relate to. And so we have to look at, who's in that audience, who are, well, no one's like those Congress critters, but the people at home, right? And, Jim Semivan, he might be interesting.
Jim Semivan would be bad.
Yeah. But the thing is that for me, like, it really is, like, I have in my head, like, a list of people who I think could actually present anything well. And then I have a list of people who have information that I would like to see come out in Congress. And that's like 2 Venn diagrams that really don't seem to meet much at all. I mean, like in very small places.
Nicole, the old crusty farts at Lockheed. And
Steve Justice would be interesting.
Steve Justice, former Lockheed executive, would be interesting.
Justice I would like to see. That cat, man, that one bugs me.
If somebody says Nick Pope out there, I'm gonna pull my hair out. All I know is
Nick Pope and Tucker Carlson would be awesome.
I was playing my son and I were playing catch today. You got those Velcro pads you put on your hands, they're round, and then you throw the tennis ball at them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you put that on top of Nick Pope's head, that thing is never coming off. Never coming off. He's wearing that forever with his Brillo pad hairdo. Seriously. That Velcro hair of his, there is no way. And what's he going to say? I mean, can you imagine Nick Pope being in front of Congress?
Nick Pope, Tucker Carlson, and Corey Good, and David Wilcox, and then...
This is my Nick Pope impression.
Oh, my goodness. This could be so much fun.
Sorry for a moment, but I haven't got the latest quote from Lou. I haven't got the latest quote from Chris Mellon. So let me just remind you, I worked for the DND in the UK, the MOD.
Now, no, I'm sorry, David, totally right. But I just want to point out, Nicole Sackage brings up a really interesting point, because there are records of Battelle employees making statements that along the lines of when they were creating something, when they were working on the creation of something like titanium or something, and they'll talk about what were their insights that they got in the very beginning. And a couple of them that I've seen that I've never been able to actually go out and get qualified basically said things like, well, my boss brought in this part and he gave it to me, and I just always assumed it was off some Russian or German plane. I didn't know. But that's where I got the idea from, and those kind of stories would come out. And if those stories could be confirmed, having some of those people talk would be really interesting. Because, if you can start showing a real path through the DoD from a production manufacturing point of view, that would get a lot more senators interested.